Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Buller Show. Today I have with me Hector Pantazopolous. Now, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Hector.
Yeah.
Hector is from Montreal, Quebec, and has over 10 years of experience in the online advertising and marketing industries. Hector co-founded SourceKnowlege in about 2009 to help e-commerce and retail brands to gain incremental lifts in sales with advertising outside of the walled gardens. And we're talking about the big players like Google and Facebook. SourceKnowlege helps e-commerce stores get an incremental lift in sales by turning store catalogs into a shopping feed, and I'm very curious about that. Stores successfully use their platform to access in-market shoppers on comparison shopping engines, channel-driven content sites, in-text ads, native placements, influencers, interested to see what you think of influencers, and deal sites. So founded in 2009, SourceKnowlege is headquartered in Montreal with offices in Toronto, Vancouver, and Los Angeles, and clients around the world. So welcome to the show, Hector. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
So Hector, you're from a beautiful part of the world called Canada, which I've had the joy of visiting and enjoyed it very much. And even got to visit old Quebec, which is fascinating. It's like a bit of France just dropped into Canada. It's almost like I suppose a theme park dropped into the middle of modern Canada. But yeah, love Canada. And so what I want to know, Hector, is how did you get into all this, this digital platform space, digital advertising? Tell us what caught your eye early, and what was the inspiration and the call basically to start this? What was the inspiration for this originally?
Yeah, I mean, I can take you back to pre-2009. What sparked my interest in online advertising and just the concept of running a website and being able to make money off of it, which is really what sparked my curiosity. My first job when I cut my teeth into this industry was really just running a relationship manager and a partnership manager for a little e-com shop that was selling artwork on the internet. And my job was very basic. I was contacting website owners and trying to get them to put our affiliate links on their page and our advertising on their page. So I was communicating with, because of the nature of the product, I was communicating with little art blogs and really hobbyists that had online presences that were just discussing artwork and great artists and Renaissance art, et cetera, and they're just placing links on the side of their page, and we were cutting them a very sizable check on a monthly basis. Just that connection and concept that I was facilitating this transaction, it was something that was being done between a little company in Montreal and a blogger and enthusiast in Middle America, I thought was fascinating. So this is really what piqued my interest in the online advertising space, and to learn more and more about it. It's what really brought my career into this. I think fast forward to 2009 when we started the company. Myself and my co-founders, we were all part of the same organization that unfortunately was about to be sold, and they were closing down our local offices. We all got together and we had the same similar interests and same kind of experiences there. The idea was, well, could we provide online ad services to small mom and pop shops or just the retail sites, or anybody out there that can't do this themselves? And this was very, very early on, and that was in 2009. And that's what SourceKnowlege first was. We were providing, search services and marketing services to companies all around the world that needed that extra help. And it wasn't until we started building on our technology and building on the tech platform that we really got into the ad tech space and getting a bit more sophisticated in our product offering. So I can lead you through kind of the path of SourceKnowlege, where we started running display ads and running our own little display network, and really got our got some success running video ads and pre-roll ads, and that's when things really started to pick up. That was about 2014, 2015. That was our a top high water mark for us when we were doing very, very well in the video space. But the video space at that time, we were building technology to hook into larger companies like YouTube prior to Google pulling the YouTube inventory off of the exchanges. At that time, you could still bid on all their traffic. We were doing this with Dailymotion. We were doing this with 𝓲𝓵𝓵, which is a very big company that got acquired by Facebook. So our connections on the traffic side were really to connect to these very large organizations that had pooled together everything into an SSP. And that was our technology, and that's our DSP, and that's what we did. And some of these big companies made some business changes, and that ended up really affecting our business, which is kind of what created a bit of a downturn for us. And you can almost say that we recast and reset a new company around 2018 when we focused on e-commerce. And that's when we really started to build out our platform, build out our ability to, there was a company here in Canada called Shopify that was becoming very popular. So, hey, made it really simple for people to build websites to sell product on the internet. Our experience with the video space taught us something. It taught us that pre-rolls and views and CPMs are great. But if you can't tie it back to a transaction or a sale, it's very difficult to justify your budgets to clients. So we focused on e-commerce, we focused on click-based traffic, and we focused on driving sales. And because that would be a much, much harder campaign to turn off when things get into the downturn. And we've had a significant success ever since. Think that we have done last year was our best year ever. So we surpassed already what we've done on the video side. And I think again, our experience has taught us that, focusing on performance and sales, you're not really going to go wrong. So
right. Yep.
That leads us to kind of like our current product offering and what we've done. To teach. I mean, I back to your question. Back when we started the company, we had a bit of we had tons of confidence in ourselves that we can actually create an online business that would be successful, and we knew we could have some level of success. I think our kind of raison d'être really started to be cemented in the open web, as we've always existed there. We've never played well just reselling another company's services. So we've always kind of championed companies that have the ability to work with multiple vendors and work with multiple advertisers and staying outside of the walled gardens. And that's where we've always built our value.
Okay. Let me ask you a question then. So in terms of if you're an e-commerce store, how would they use your services? And you've talked about essentially you can turn catalogs into a shopping feed. And obviously you bring some of your video expertise into this as well. And also you talk about if you can't track results back to a source, in other words, you can't justify, and you talked about click-based ads. So let's have a chat about some of the things that you offer to e-commerce stores. Like if I was an e-commerce store, what would you be saying to me, and what is the in terms of how you would help them grow sales, and then track the results of your ads as well. So going, okay, so this ad works, this one doesn't. We need to do more of that, less of this. Tell us a bit about the actual detail, I suppose a quick overview of how you work with an e-commerce platform, and especially someone on Shopify, which is the big, e-commerce platform. Because e-commerce used to be a lot of custom sites that you built from the ground up.
Exactly.
And then what happened is Shopify came in and it was all hosted software as a service type scenario.
Yep.
So tell us a bit about that.
So that's, very good. Very good. I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's the reason why we went down this road of the Shopify connection and plugin. So our first, our ideal client base is essentially a customer that's selling product on the internet, who's built their store using Shopify. We have others we can work with, but let's use Shopify as the example. You're selling product on the internet. You're running campaigns with Facebook and Google already because they're the big boys, and you're obviously doing that. In order to work with us, in order to take the difficulty outside of your hands for a marketing person, you essentially go to the Shopify App Store and you install our app. And by installing our app, we're doing two things. We are pulling out all the product catalog from your website. That includes the images, the title, description, the prices, all the information directly from your website. It's up to date in real time because as you keep your store up to date, our feed will be up to date. So you don't have to worry about whether the ads are broken or going to a broken page or anything. As long as you keep your store up to date, the ads will always be exactly what they should be. And we put tracking pixels on your page. So we're going to put the ability to track whether or not campaigns generated a sale or not directly on your page. Typically in the past, in the days when every store was a custom site, every tracking pixel was a custom pixel as well. And it was extremely laborious to figure out how to put something through Google Tag Manager properly. And there was a back and forth there. And there's a whole agencies that would bill hours to figure out how to put tags on people's websites. These days, things are thankfully simpler. We do this for you. Once you click that button, everything happens in the background. So you're ready to run your campaign, and your campaign is essentially it's a CPC buy. You're running it on our traffic, which is outside of the walled gardens, and you're setting your performance goal. So you're telling us what you want to see because we've put that pixel and tracker on your page. We know what sales are going to happen. You're only going to be paid if a click happens, so only if somebody's actually landing on your page. Most of our customers would go in there and put, say, $5,000, $10,000 a month, a return on ad spend, let's say 3x. So for every $100, I need $300 in sales, and off we go. And our system will run the campaign. And what we do is we try to hit your 3x return on ad spend, and we're not going to blow through your money if we can't hit it. So the system is simply designed to scale itself back if we can't hit your goal. So that has it makes it a bit easier for the marketing person. So the marketing person does not have to put a tracking pixel live. The marketing person doesn't have to deal with product feeds, and they don't have to worry about whether or not this online system is going to spend their budget and not hit their goals, because we won't.
Right. Do you do so? A lot of the time is so data becomes very important in terms of making sure that you are tracking ad spend versus return. So do you do testing first and then scale it up? Is that how you start? Like you do a small sample test? Tell us a bit about that, and then I want to dive a little bit more into the sort of data that you'll give to your clients.
So as we run our campaigns, it's a bit of a crawl, walk, run approach. So your first couple of days will be slow as we determine, okay, are we able to hit this? Are we able to drive some conversions here? So it's not unusual for spend to be fairly low for the first couple of days, and sales start trickling in, and then we learn which of our sources perform best. And what we have is what we call our smart bidder, which determines how much are we going to pay for this traffic on the supply side. So when the click occurs, there's a base rate that we'll pay for that publisher, and whether we pay more or less for that click, that's all dependent on the performance goal and the performance metric that's being hit. Once you pay more for a click, you have the higher chance of getting more traffic, obviously, that increasing. So that's kind of the way that we determine, okay, is this working? Is it not working? And if it is working, let's pay this publisher more, as long as we're hitting the thresholds to get more of this traffic. And and none of this is done. This is all done automated. There is no manual intervention. There's people overseeing and looking at it, but no one's going in there making adjustments themselves. We have our own algorithms that are doing this. Right.
Okay. So you've built your own platform to manage all this for you. And
yes.
Okay, and also you've obviously got a connection, whether it's an API, into ad networks or sellers. So tell us a bit about, so what sort of ad networks are you plugging into? What types? Just tell us a little bit about, what lies behind the scene, that wall.
So on the traffic side, we split up our traffic in a couple different ways. So one, you're either running on a deal or review site, which is a direct relationship. That means it's a website that we have a direct relationship with that's putting our links up. We have APIs where websites can automate this and just put campaigns up and down on a daily basis. Many of them do. We can also run on an in-text network. These are any huge text companies that essentially deal with content and article pages and huge content sites.
Yep.
So it's not a direct relationship. That's the ad network side of the equation, where they go out there and replace links on hyperlinks on article pages with whatever pays them the highest rate. And we're one of the buyers that will bid on that traffic. Some of this is done in a bit more of a real-time bidded basis at this point. Yep. Some of this is done in a manual basis, depends on the sophistication of who you're talking to. Then we have a set of traffic that is comparison shopping engines. That's all direct. These are, again, websites that we have direct hooks into. We speak with the owner of the website and we hand them the product catalog based on this Shopify app install. And we have social. Social is the influencers. And those influencers are again, direct. This is primarily on Instagram, but not specific to any social platform. Yeah. And these are individuals that come to us to run campaigns. So the ad network side is really the in-text kind of piece of the equation. Right. The rest of it is direct relationships that we've built on over the years that we have direct publisher relationships with. Okay.
So I'm curious about influencer side of things. So you said you get approached by influencers. Do you have like or do you approach influencers so that you can get effective influencers? So obviously there's a lot of influencers out there that are specializing in a certain area, like health products or fitness products and so on, beauty products, and the list goes on, and these are on Instagram. So how do you manage and how do you identify influencers to be able to offer effective advertising? And then how do you manage and monitor that to see if it's working? I'd be curious about the influencer side of things.
Sure. So influencers is a very vague umbrella term that seems to cover a lot of things.
Yeah.
When we say influencers, and we're talking about social, we're talking about a very niche section of that ecosystem. It's primarily micro influencers that are deal seekers and extreme couponers or really the deal review people. It's a subset that exists. Essentially, when this started, I guess Amazon was the first one to really open up their affiliate platform to influencers and make it much simpler for influencers to drive traffic directly to product pages. So this subset kind of grew out of that. These essentially are an individual that will have a following. Usually they're about 10 to 50,000 followers on Instagram. Instagram is the main driver of this. And everybody that's following this person is looking for a transactional relationship. They're looking for them to post discounts, deals that they found. So the influencer's job is to go around to the merchants and see if they find promotions, discounts, specific products that they think their audience will enjoy. And if they do find something, they'll post it. They'll post an image of it. They'll put the price on it. They'll put their own little branding on the posting, and off it goes. And how do they get paid? In our ecosystem, they get paid on a click. So if somebody essentially does this promotion through their Instagram, inside in that post, it is very well understood that they need to go to the link in bio if they want to proceed to actually transact for this product. So they'll see the image, they'll like it, they'll like the discount, they'll go to the link, go to the bio of this user, click on the link in bio. They have a list of all their offers that are up. They'll click on what they like. That's when the influencer gets paid, and we track the performance. Once a click occurs, then it's like no other advertising. Once the click occurs, we can track whether or not that user is actually going to convert or purchase a product or not, and whether that's hitting the performance metrics of the merchant. So the interesting thing about this is this content is new. This content isn't traffic that would have gone to the retailer anyway. If it hadn't been for this influencer, you would not have gotten this traffic. If the deal, discount, product, merchant is I'd say something that the influencer is interested in, it can go viral. We have had instances where there's just a deal that's great, and all the influencers pick them up, and suddenly you're driving a huge glut of sales. So it's kind of like a catching fire in that respect. So that's very, very interesting, and it's something that the retailers have to be aware of how to use them in the most effective way as well. So that particular niche is unique, and definitely something that we're looking to grow even more of. They come to us at this point. We don't really need to recruit. They know who we are, and they come to us and they try to sign up to post more and more of our product offerings.
Yeah. It's influencers thing didn't exist a decade ago, did it? Really? It's,
no.
Yeah.
No. And it's not a lifestyle influencer. That's the person that we're dealing with is not that type of influencer.
Right. Okay. These are more influencers that are actually very targeted and making money from coupons and clicks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and and discounts. They're looking for a deal. They want a deal or a discount, then they want to promote it to their user base.
Okay. So you've built your own platform because you learn along the way that relying upon the big guys who can change the rules overnight. And
it's not a good idea.
No, it's not. So if you're relying upon Google as your only source of business, or Facebook, or it doesn't matter who, but you can get run over by them because they change the rules. So obviously you've built a platform, and I'm intrigued by, okay, so you got hit by Google removing, their services from the market, as in being able to sell via YouTube, and did it themselves, obviously. So how did you go about building your platform? I'm intrigued by that because you've obviously built a software platform. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a difficult transition. So it was a transition on the fly that we had to kind of continue to run a business where it wasn't like all our business turned off in a day. It just was clear that it was it took a couple hits and it was trending downwards. So at the same time, and that was a balancing act because you almost have two different companies that you need to silo, and your brain needs to silo in two different ways. On one end, you're building a product for the future, and you're dealing with developers, and you're doing project roadmaps, and you're talking to marketing, and you're paying for something that it will work in the future, you hope, and you're building into that. And on the other side, you're dealing with the existing customer base and the existing client base and the operational and sales side of that. And that has to continue to happen. So it's a bit of a two-step for us. Other companies would essentially, defunct one company and spin up another, perhaps. I don't know. But that's not what we did. We kept SourceKnowledge running, and we kept our client base going, and we kept servicing the clients. It was a rough year because you don't know once you're building this product if it will work, if it will transact, if it will function. At the same time, you have employees, and you have people, and you have staff, and you have clients, and you have to keep everything kind of going. So I'm not going to say that part wasn't rough. That part was rough. There was
Mm.
nothing, obvious about our success in that regard. But you persevere and you push forward. So,
Mm.
we did things at the same time. And once we launched our product with the Shopify app and the Shopify store, it slowly but surely, it was another one of those issues where it just the momentum was there. It was obvious that this was working, and that's where all the resources and time and effort started going into, and that's just very quickly the focus of the company was there. So but I can't say here that the idea of focusing on shopping, e-commerce, and building our own software that plugs into Shopify, all as great as an idea as it was, there wasn't times when we sat back and thought, oh boy, I hope this one works. It certainly did come up.
Yeah. And that's the challenge, isn't it? That changes happen, can happen quite quickly in the digital world. And you've got to enjoy the journey of constant evolution. And it's like this balancing act between what worked last year maybe doesn't work this year. Whether that's, Google changes its algorithm on search, so you can lose 50% of traffic. Google did an update in December, which affected us very positively. They've done changes, a year or two before that didn't. And then other people, I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday, works in the digital space, and said she got hammered by the Google's update in December. So it's this, relying upon one source as your main source of revenue is it's not a good idea. So, and you've learnt that along the way, obviously. So is Shopify a big percentage of your business in terms of what you plug into? Is that, or do you play with other players like there's 𝓵𝓮𝓪𝓻𝓷, which is an Australian platform for e-commerce as well? What's your strategy for diversifying risk across e-commerce platforms?
All right. So Shopify is still, in terms of client base, there's two types of clients that we work with right now. Direct brands, which is what we've been discussing. And the direct brands are Shopify, Bill, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, this type of thing. In that ecosystem, Shopify is still the largest player that we work with right now. We've diversified, yes, but the Shopify is still definitely the largest provider of retailers. But on the diversification point, what we've done about a year and a half ago, we've unlocked kind of the platform that used to only be available for direct brands. It is now available as well for indirect brands. So this is where we speak to the ad networks of the world that I may not have brand traffic or campaign for Nike or Adidas, but an ad network may somehow, but I have traffic for them because that's I'm dealing with all these varied supply sources, and they all have traffic from multiple merchants. So I will take their ad and I will run it through our system, and I'll run it on our traffic. That part of the ecosystem, which is just indirect ads, has grown significantly. That has allowed us to really drive up the revenue as well. So we have at this point 2 tracks that we're running on. We feel like we're pretty spread in terms of diversification of where you get your ads from because of this, because it's not, there isn't one source of all our retailers. We would like to have more direct retailers, obviously, than indirect ones, but that's a work in progress. Selling to major brands as a small Montreal-based company, that's a work in progress, of course.
Right.
So that's our strategy, and that's how we've been able to build and grow the business.
Okay. So you've got you would be more involved in selling physical products from e-commerce stores. Is that more your focus?
Mm-hmm.
That raises another, and so that makes me think about another area such as affiliate selling. Have you been involved at all which is affiliate selling is more selling what we call high margin products that are, knowledge, online training, software as a service, which typically have very high margins and can give away a lot of commission to those that promote it. Do you play in the affiliate space at all or thought about it? I'd be interested in your thoughts if you have.
Many of our ad networks that are purchasing traffic through our system, they are affiliates, but they're purchasing on behalf of retailers, physical products, as you said,
right?
Not software as a service, not online e-learning training, any financial lead gen, this type of stuff. That is a huge market out there. We don't currently play with it. We don't currently have that niche on the traffic side. We could, but to me, this is a traffic problem. It's ensuring that you can place those ads in areas that will drive the performance. If you can, then it makes sense. If you can't, then stay away from it. So I don't think we haven't solved that particular problem yet. So we don't do a lot of that type of affiliate space business, sweepstakes, this type of thing.
Yeah, an affiliate normally relies on the fact that the site that's one of your affiliates that's selling your product or service has got a lot of organic traffic. That, in other words, it's because the challenge in any digital advertising is that the cost of advertisers increased over time, and then trying to get a return on that click that costs X. And you talked about 3X early in our conversation. Do you find the increasing cost of digital ads becoming more of a challenge over time in terms of generating a positive return?
Absolutely. I think, and to go back to the 3X example, and this is just, this is the industry that we're in. Retailers that will come and test our platform oftentimes will put their return goal that they want to hit in the system. The return goal, there's no policing of that return goal. It is up to the retailer to be reasonable and put their actual goal. I have had instances where brands that will put a goal that is essentially the return that they get from their own branded search off Google, and the return they get off their own brand name off Google is what they put in our system as a goal. And I don't know how reasonable that is to expect us to perform to that degree. When I ask, well, what is your total Google return on ad spend when you factor in how much you're spending on Google, brand and non-branded, and your the sales you're getting, it's nowhere near the 3X or 4X number, but they do it anyway because it's Google. Same with Facebook. So the cost of advertising has increased, and I think dealing in the ecosystem, it's difficult for the retailers to understand that, to build trust. I mean, I guess that's really what it is. And the ones that work with us for a while, they trust us. They understand how the system works. They're more reasonable in their goals. There's a conversation. But online ad space and online ad tech in 2023, there's a history of just players that are probably deviated from the trustworthy side of the equation too often, and this is what has caused this situation where many retailers, when they first start running campaigns, they don't trust the numbers, they don't trust the return goals, and you need to navigate that. I feel like there's not really much a company our size can do about that other than continue to hit the performance goals and just continue to do our job effectively. Right.
So that leads me to the next question, which is, and after that, I want to ask you, what have you learned along the way as an entrepreneur, as to wrap things up? In other words, what are the top 2 or 3 tips you'd say to someone who's going to be, that'll be my last question, which would be, what are your top tips and what have you learned along the way? So data, do you have a dashboard that your customers can dial into and see their numbers in real time?
There's a 1 day delay, but yes, they can see their spend, they can see their sales, they can see the order ID amounts, they can see whether or not the customer is new or returning, meaning has he purchased off your e-com store before or not.
Yep.
So you can measure right away if this is a customer I would have got anyway, which is the main goal that every merchant has. So yes, they do have an online dashboard where they see those metrics. We're not Facebook, so we don't have metrics on gender and age and demographic data or the occupation data or anything like that. Our information is really on the transaction that we delivered to the customer. Where was it? When was it? Who was it? Whether it was new or not, and whether or not they used a coupon code or not. Did they use a discount code or had they transacted without using a discount code? So this is all done on a regular basis. They have access to this through a real-time dashboard.
Right, because data builds trust, doesn't it? And then you've got to make sure that the data, and data, and also it's quite, data also is an affirmation. In other words, it affirms what works and what doesn't. So, and that's motivational. I know for me, a dashboard saying, okay, you dial into your numbers from the night before and going, okay, what have we sold? Where does it come from? What are the different niches? And you're going, okay. So for me, I find data actually motivating, and a data dashboard is part of that. So it builds trust. And essentially every business now needs to have that information, that data, to measure, to see what works and what doesn't. Otherwise, I feel if I'm not seeing that, I'm flying blind.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I remember when we first launched, because obviously we built the product as iteratively, getting off Excel sheets and Google Sheets and into like, okay, now everybody's going to log into the system and this is where all the data is. It was a bit of a eureka moment, because as you said, it's real when you have actual reporting that you can share with the customer on a regular basis that they can log into and access themselves and manipulate as they wish. Yeah,
exactly. So it leads me to my last question, and I'd be interested, we've heard some along the way, is what's some of the biggest learnings you've had as an entrepreneur, especially in the digital space? Your top 2 or 3 tips that you could share with listeners and viewers.
Sure. I guess the top tip for me really is don't get too focused on one result. You can have an overarching goal and an overarching idea that you want to achieve once you either start a company, start building a software, start your business. But especially in the digital space, things change so rapidly, and it's often not your fault. It just happens, and you will need to be reactive. So don't get muddied and stuck on a specific idea. If your effective goal is to build the greatest widget, and 6 months into the project, that widget is not feasible anymore, just change and adjust. Don't get stuck in it. Just to keep adjusting. So you have to be nimble in this space, and you have to love that. I mean, it has to be something that keeps you, instead of it keeping you up at night, it should be something that sparks your creativity and imagination. And for me, it does. For others, it keeps them up at night, and I can understand that. But that's not my experience. So that's my first kind of definitely my tip. Don't get stuck in the weeds. You will have to adjust your ideas and plans, and that is very normal. And you haven't failed if that's happened. You've just been smart about it. That's essentially it. And then surround yourself by good people. So when you're starting a company, your first couple of hires and your first couple of people that you bring in, and even the partners that you decide to partner up with, those are big decisions that need to be taken with thoughtfulness. You could be employing these people for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you want to work with them and trust them, and you definitely want them to work with you and trust you. So if you surround yourself by A talent and or people that understand you and understand your weaknesses, and you understand their weaknesses, and vice versa, the positives, that's key growing your business. So definitely do that. Pardon me. My third idea. I have to come up with one now.
It's two is fine.
Let's say
Hector, 2 is fine.
I hope 2 is fine.
2 is fine. So what you really said is that things are going to change. So just be ready to change with that. And I think the other thing I heard you say is don't spread the risk by not being reliant upon one platform. I think that's maybe
100%.
That's maybe the third point. Number 2, have a great team, look after them. And for me, I've learned too, is get out of the way, let them trust their ideas. It doesn't mean that you don't, make comments, but I've been always amazed by what the team comes up with if you let them just offer their creativity and knowledge and expertise. And so Hector, thank you very much for sharing your journey. It's one that you did, the business plan that you did or didn't write in 2009 is basically been thrown out the window as you had to evolve with the change.
Multiple times.
And quite often ask, okay, so did you write a business plan or not? Sometimes it's just an idea that evolves over time and they write the business plan a year or 2 later. But Hector, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to chat to you and have a great evening. What time is it there?
It's just before 5, so I'm off to pick up my son at daycare. So
okay,
this is perfect timing for me.
All right, cool. All right, and what's the plans for the evening? Read a book to your son tonight?
He's 2.5, so my plans are to stay sane.
Okay,
right. As he runs around and destroys things. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great to meet you, Hector, and have a great evening. And it'll be live about mid-April, where I've got about a 2-month funnel of recorded podcasts. All right. And my team will be in touch once we launch it. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Catch you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.